Welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast with Jacob Liberta and Bailey Palicki. We're here to offer you fresh takes and analysis on all of our beloved Minnesota sports teams, as well as a take on the national scene. And today we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, yes.
In our weekly special, this time it'll be about the receivers.
Okay.
We're going to break down from top to bottom, from Thielen and Jefferson to whoever we got rounded out the roster. This is what we're going to discuss today. So, Bailey, let's get right down to it.
Yeah.
Where would you rank the Thielen-Jefferson duo among the NFL's best?
I mean, they have to be towards the top, right? I mean, you can argue maybe A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. Who else even? I mean, the guys from Cleveland, Odell and Jarvis Landry, but Odell really hasn't done much the last couple seasons. He's been injured. Mm-hmm. Am I missing any really big duos here? I'm trying to think. I don't know if I am.
No, I feel like you're kind of hitting on the big ones. I feel like Thielen and Jefferson are among the best, if not the best. I think it could obviously be proven this season, but being a biased Vikings fan, why not? I just think, even unbiased, take the Vikings cap off my Vikings shirt and whatnot, but I still think the production is just there. I mean, Jefferson set the rookie records last year. He rewrote the books that Randy Moss did 20 years ago. And everybody remembers that so vividly, whether you're a Vikings fan or not, how good Randy Moss was. And when you're in that kind of rare air, that's saying something.
Yeah, it's
and then obviously you got Thielen, who was just a red zone machine last year.
Yes.
Kirk found him every game and multiple touchdowns. And he ended up with 14 or something, which is kind of mind-boggling. And that,
it is.
So I don't see why these guys wouldn't be the best, because they both can just do it all. They're great route runners. They can both stretch the field. They can both play a possession game. They can both get open in the red zone. Can't really ask for much more than that. So
exactly,
I think they got to be the best. But the thing is, I guess it depends. I mean, where do you think maybe they can improve?
Honestly, that's a great question. I mean, Thielen's obviously getting older. He's 31, 32 years old now. So he'll probably have a few years left. I mean, he's that kind of possession type receiver where I think a lot of people could see him carving into a Larry Fitzgerald type role, being able to play for a while. But he's still quick. He's still a great route runner. And that's the thing with him and Jefferson. They're not the biggest, they're not the fastest, and they're not the strongest, but they get open all the time. I mean, they are always wide open. And when you have two guys like that, it really makes it easy on both of them. I mean, if they're both open, you can't really double one of them if you got the other one out there. So. Yeah. And then you add in guys like Irv Smith, and then you have Delvin Cook, obviously a great running back, and there's weapons all over the field. So that makes their job easier too. And when we had Stephon Diggs here, it was kind of the same thing. One of the best duos in the league with him and Adam Thielen. So the Vikings have done a good job of, churning out top talent at the wide receiver position. Now, over the last few years, the depth at the position's been kind of a concern.
I don't like it. Yeah.
So that kind of leads us into our next topic here. I mean, we got, for wide receiver 3, I think probably the leader going into training camp right now is, as we hate to say it, is probably Chad Beebe.
I'm done with Chad Beebe.
I think we're all done with Chad Beebe. I think a lot of Vikings fans feel that way. We got B.C. Johnson, who was pretty decent his rookie year. He very much underwhelmed last year. And then we have a whole bevy of rookies and undrafted free agents. And
lots of unproven guys.
Exactly. Yeah. So I guess, how do you see that shaping out going into camp here? Do you think one of these young guys can jump up and take that spot?
I think one of them should, and I feel like there's enough bodies there for somebody to emerge. But at the same time, maybe wide receiver 3 isn't even on the roster yet. Maybe we pick up some veteran free agent, let's say a D.D. Westbrook if he hasn't signed yet. So I know that's always been in the rumor mill for the Vikings. So, I mean, that's always an option. And obviously there's a bunch of cuts that'll take place at the end of August. And obviously the downside of that is that receiver would miss your whole training camp, so you wouldn't be totally up to speed with your playbook. So it'd probably take him a little bit to get into it. But I think that might be, honestly, in my opinion, right now, is probably the better option for us. That wide receiver 3 wouldn't even be on the team yet. So I'm not a BB guy. He always gets hurt, and he's always grading out very low on PFF.
Well, he's got very questionable hands. I mean, he fumbles the ball, he drops the ball. I
think he's literally on the team because he can turn quick in his routes, which obviously that's really important. He can just maintain speed in his routes. But the problem is that it doesn't do us any good if he's not getting open or if he can't catch the ball, and especially if maybe he gets play special teams. No, he can't. I mean, we stick him back there to punt return. You just hold your breath and he catches the ball. I mean, he almost blew that game for us against the Panthers.
But then he won the game.
Great. That's great. Anybody can catch a ball. That's when he's wide open in the end zone. But so I'm not a BB guy, obviously. And then B.C. Johnson, definitely underwhelming last year. And honestly, I guess I'm not going to expect a whole ton from him. He's a former 7th round pick. So I mean, that's about all there is to him. But he's got a few years on BB, like he's 3 years younger, I should say.
Yep.
And so maybe there's still room for growth, but I mean, we can't really bank on that.
No.
And then what I'm really hoping for, if we're really going to ride it out with these guys we have in house that Thielen is praising right now, I hope it's Amir Marcet, just because he's one of our draft picks from this year. And obviously, he looked pretty good at Iowa for a while. And it looks like he can be a good returner on special teams. And so I'm really hoping he can just assert himself, look good in camp, and just leave no doubt about it. I don't know. What are you thinking?
That's what I'm hoping, too. I mean, the whole Chad Beebe thing, I think they like him because he's like a true slot receiver. But I think the days are over where you need your third receiver to be a slot receiver, you know?
Yes.
He doesn't need to be a guy that comes in on third down and gets you 5 yards. I mean, that's nice, obviously, but it'd be nice to have guys at the receiver position 1 through 3 who can all kind of do the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Amir Marcet comes into the fold, because I think he can play outside and he can play inside. And both Thielen and Jefferson are great out of the slot. So you can move one of them in, put Marcet on the outside. He's a speed guy. Exactly. You could throw the ball vertically down the field to him. So it'd be nice to see him come up and take that. But like you also mentioned, signing a free agent receiver like D.D. Westbrook, or maybe they'll consider Larry Fitzgerald, as old as he is. Maybe even like Golden Tate. He's sitting out there. He's had some injury issues over the last few years, but
he's at least got pretty reliable hands.
And he's got a good track record of playing in the NFC North. He was on the Lions for a while, so he's familiar with the division. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't know. I don't really think any of these undrafted guys are going to come up and snag that spot. They talk about this Blake Prohl guy,
which that's great if he has a great camp. Cool,
yes, but I think he's another one of those guys that's just kind of like a slot receiver, and I don't think that's necessarily what you want. Maybe he can make the team and be like wide receiver 6 and play special teams or whatever, but
maybe.
And it'll also be interesting to see how many receivers they end up keeping, because last year they kept what, 7?
Like 7.
And the year before that they kept 4.
Yeah.
And typically they've always kept 6. So it'll be interesting to see if they go back to that or if they keep more for special teams.
Yes. Speaking of special teams and kind of filling out the end of your depth chart at receiver, kind of curious if they're going to keep Dan Chesina around. I'm really hoping we don't, because he had more bad plays than good plays last year on special teams. Yep. And if he can't play special teams, then probably shouldn't even have a roster spot.
Yeah, I noticed there was some quotes from Zimmer a few weeks back, and they were kind of asking him, like, who out of all these young guys are you kind of liking at wide receiver? And he mentioned guys by name. He mentioned KJ Osborne. He mentioned Dan Chesina. Yeah. He mentioned Blake Prohl. He mentioned basically everybody except Amir Marcet. And I think the only issue he has with Marcet is he's a rookie and he's kind of a talker. Oh, he likes to talk some smack out on the field. And I don't think Zimmer wants to put up with that from a rookie. But if Marcet is that guy, he's kind of got that swag like a young Stephon Diggs type, and he's too good. I mean, you have to play him, obviously. So I'm not too concerned about that. He's a 5th-round pick. I think he'll end up making the team. And, it'll just be interesting to see, like, a guy like KJ Osborne, who was our 5th-round pick last year and was horrible at kick return. He's probably gone, I would think.
He might be, yeah. Honestly,
unless he's really improved at wide receiver. But I don't see that happening, because he was a complete non-factor at wide receiver last year.
Yeah. Here's my thing: is I think wide receiver 3 right now on this team could be arguably one of the biggest holes we have. Outside of probably who's going to start opposite Daniel Hunter, that's probably number 1. But after that, I'd probably say it's wide receiver 3, maybe, assuming guys like Davis and Darrisaw are good to go to start on the outside line day 1. Then I'm looking at wide receiver 3, and I'm kind of concerned as far as guys that can get open on third downs, whether like, let's say the defense double covers Jefferson and Thielen, brackets them with 2 safeties, then you just need a guy that beats man-to-man coverage. But to be honest, I don't feel super confident in the guys we have right now. But
I don't either.
I know Thielen's singing their praises in his press conferences right now, but I feel like that's just blowing smoke.
Well, that's the problem, is everyone looks good in camp when there's no pads on and they're wearing those soft helmets and they're not going full speed. Like, I don't know. Obviously, it's easy to get excited now, and everyone loves the preseason hype. Everyone wants to feel good about their team, but it's hard to know right now. And hopefully, they learn more during training camp. And it's nice that they'll finally have a preseason again this year. They'll have 3 preseason games to kind of sift through that depth chart there. So
see who Kellen Mond has some chemistry with.
Yes,
preseason,
exactly.
Keep them around, but that's also another thing too to consider is how much chemistry these receivers have with Kirk. And like, Kirk doesn't usually trust receivers like right away, if at all. Like, it's just a known fact. Even with Jefferson last year, it felt like it took him a little bit to ease into it and start throwing the ball a lot. So that's also a concern of mine. I think this receiver problem could have just as much to do with Kirk, if not like more than people are really admitting to, I
Right.
guess I would say, because, or really talking about. I think that he's got to be able to trust receivers too. Maybe they're not getting open enough. I don't know. But you really have to break down the all 22 film and really analyze it. But the thing is that you got to get Kirk to trust somebody and figure out who he trusts in camp here. That's important.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, some of that's on Kirk, and he's the veteran. He should be able to kind of help these guys along. But as we've talked about before, he has some shortcomings when it comes to being that true leader and kind of helping get rookies out and stuff like that. So we'll see. I mean, I'd like to think that they have a ton of guys in this wide receiver room. At least one of them's got to step up and show something. I mean,
you would think
when Thielen missed a handful of games a couple of years ago, BC Johnson filled in. He did a nice job. Maybe he can regain that form. I mean, he's nothing special. He's not super fast. He's not a super great athlete, but he was at least reliable that year. And last year he wasn't great. And you had Jefferson coming in, kind of stealing the thunder. So yeah, it'll just be interesting to see what they do there. I don't know. I think they'll end up figuring it out, though.
Yeah, I'll believe when I see it with this wide receiver room. I feel like I've been teased these last couple of years with the guys that are filling out the depth chart, and they've just been not good. So I'm not going to believe it until literally somebody comes in out and really takes the job and runs with it. I mean, I'm done with these no-name guys that everybody hypes in training camps. Like, oh yeah, these guys, this is it. Now we finally found a replacement for Jarius Wright from 4 years ago, and we still haven't done that. So I feel like that shouldn't be that tough of an ask.
Yeah, and that whole Jarius Wright thing ended weird too, because he was good for a long time, and then they just kind of stopped using him. So that was weird. But
let me ask you one last question to cap this one off. Who do you think, when the smoke clears, is going to be the third wide receiver on opening day when the Vikings go to Cincinnati?
I am going to say D.D. Westbrook.
Okay, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
I think it could definitely. I think Smith Marcet will be number 4, but I don't think Zimmer's going to quite trust him, and I think he's going to want to bring a vet in. So that's my reasoning.
I think that's fair. I like that pick. Honestly, I'm going to be a cynic, and even though I don't want it to happen, I'm going to say it's going to happen just because I'm preparing for the worst. And I'm going to say Chad Beebe will be wide receiver 3.
I can definitely see that too.
Which I don't want it to happen, but I feel like it could be inevitable if we don't sign anybody. So
for sure,
that's a little bit concerning, but I'm just going to have to live with it. So that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be sure to like this video and stay tuned for more content by subscribing to this YouTube channel, as well as giving us a follow on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks again for watching.